Item 3 is projects, and this evening we have Adam Bullerman from Snyder and Associates to speak to us about the North 12th Street and Early Street storm sewer improvement. Excuse me. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. More or less what I wanted to do today was to come up here and discuss the project in a little bit more detail, but also to bring the new council members and also Barb up to speed as far as where we're at on the project and what steps are coming ahead. I met with Jeff before he left in December to kind of run through the preliminary design and some cost opinions that we had put together that were more specific to the projects, more in terms of from what we did in the study, in terms of more, now we have a survey, we know what driveways we need to replace, we know what storm sewer pipe size we're going to need, and we could refine that a little bit more. At that time, though, what Jeff and I had discussed is that the city had submitted another application for a community development block grant, which we'll know in, I believe, in early March of this year whether or not the city received any of that money. And at that time, then we can make the decision on whether or not we complete this as one project, more or less going from Audubon Street all the way up to the North 12th and Early intersection. It's about 4 or 5 blocks of storm sewer, and that'll take us then down to that drainage ditch, which there we'll get into later as far as the sanitary improvements for the 11th Street project. But more or less at that time we'll have an understanding, you know, if we have the grant money, that's great. You know, what are our options as far as doing the project all at once? In long term, saving more money. If we do split it up into 2 projects, it will cost more money. We'll have 2 separate construction seasons, more administration time, observation time, and of course, just with going for another year or 2, you know, as far as the funding is concerned, then you know we're going to just increase construction costs. So we can discuss that in greater detail in March. At the time when we know if we've received any of that grant money, I'll prepare those cost estimates and we'll go through and itemize each individual option and then decide at that point if we want to proceed with phase 1 of the project or to proceed with both phases of the project at the same time. But more or less, just wanted to bring that up. One thing that Jeff did mention, with our original agreement, Jeff was going to handle the right-of-way acquisition for the easements. More or less, we're just looking for temporary easements. All the new storm sewer would all remain within the city right-of-way. So I just wanted to bring that up and make you aware that that's the way we had initially planned the project to proceed. But you know, I still want to leave that kind of open in case you do have an administrator by that time that we decide on as far as what we're going to do, phase 1 or both phases at the same time. I'll include that in the memo as far as the cost, because we do have right-of-way staff at our office. They're registered agents within the state of Iowa, and they can handle all that. I mean, pretty much the council can be hands-off on the negotiations. They'll have the final say on the actual cost for the easement and approve appraisals and things like that. But we have staff in-house that can pretty much handle everything. They'll handle the negotiations, the paperwork, and everything of that nature. But we'll bring that up as a cost once we get into after March of this year. Because by that time, I mean, if you do have an administrator, you know, and if that's something they're comfortable with taking over, you know, we can just proceed the way we had initially planned. But I just wanted to bring that up at that meeting as that's something that we'll need to discuss once we decide which phase of the project to proceed with right away. But more or less, you know, just you know, I'm available here if any of the new council members have questions on the stormwater report that we prepared last year. Anything in general. If we need to provide a couple more copies, I'm sure we can do that. But you know, either that or any other questions stormwater related throughout the city or just in this project specifically.
I have a question, just looking at some of the itemized bills that you have in here. Okay. I'm assuming that through you're determining your percentage complete is based off of information that you supply us, and we're just going with what you're saying percent complete. So the survey is 100% complete.
That's correct. Yes, we completed the survey, and Actually, I believe the survey had been, or was completed back in September, October of last year, which at that time on that invoice, that would have been paid at 100%. So you're looking at, it still shows 100%, but, I mean, the difference will be on what was paid previously plus the additional for this month. And more or less what you're seeing there is the preliminary design.
Okay.
What Jeff and I discussed in December of this year, or December of last year, more or less, developing a new cost opinion, going through our stormwater calculations and things like that.
Okay.
But the big thing that you'll see here on this invoice is that, preliminary design is pretty much done. More or less, we won't proceed with the final design until about March of this year, until we determine exactly what we want to do as a project.
Okay.
What project we want to let and bid this year.
Okay.
So that's where we're at this point here, and we do have that in our contract, and I guess we can discuss that further in detail as far as each line by line on where those basic services are split up. And of course, you'll see there in the basic services, it does not include the construction end of the thing as far as observation and administration, mainly because we didn't, at the time we put the contract together, we weren't sure exactly which project we were going to do, if we were going to do both phases at the same time,
Okay.
or just one phase this year. So that will be something that we'll show it in our cost opinion once we get into.
Okay, talking about doing the say it's elected to do it over 2 years or multiple years. The surveys being 100% paid for. There's no additional.
That's correct. We did, our contract included survey for the entire corridor for both phases, and also for preliminary design of both phases.
Okay.
But it only included one bid package, so to say.
Okay.
As far as the design is concerned, if we did split it up into two projects, we're not necessarily looking at a whole lot of dollars to put two different bid sets together. It just gets into the whole two separate contracts, doing a lot of administration work just to get the project let. So if we do two separate contracts, we will have some additional basic services just to do that second plan set.
Okay.